Here are the reality TV stars who've lost millions of dollars. Wait until you find out what the situation didn't do that landed him in prison. Number 7, Jon Gosselin. Remember Jon and Kate +8? They were all the rage in the late 2000s, and they were all over magazine covers. It seems pretty well known that they made $22,500 per episode at the height of the original show. The family appeared on 106 episodes during the show's 2-year run on TLC. That means they made a little under $2.5 million just from the show in total. That's not including any other money they made elsewhere. It seemed like the show would just keep pumping more and more episodes out. However, Jon and Kate eventually got divorced, and she ended up with the kids. With control of all the kids, it meant that she had the leverage with the TV executives. She was gonna be fine. Kate went on to make even more money without Jon. For him, it didn't look so good. Who really knows how much money he has now, but it doesn't seem like it's much. In 2016, Jon went on the Steve Harvey show and revealed that he's lost all the money he made together with Kate. Since the show ended, he's waited tables, installed solar panels, and even DJ'd to pay the bills. He also worked as a cook at TGI Fridays. He claimed to TMZ that he donated that money to charity because, he just liked to cook. Do you believe that he was working for the pure joy of cooking? Let us know in the comments. According to him, the money was gone because he had to pay $1.7 million in legal fees between the divorce and everything else he and Kate went to court over. Kate seems to think that the money was gone because he just spent it all. Well, we think it's suspicious for someone to work a normal job if they're rich, but hey, it does happen. In 2020, he's working as an IT director at a healthcare facility even during the pandemic. But that's a pretty normal gig when compared to... Number 6, Spencer Pratt and Heidi Montag. It may actually be hard to believe now, but Spencer and Heidi were actually two of the biggest reality TV stars in the mid to late 2000s because of The Hills. From being on that show, they were able to rack up a combined $10 million in net worth in little over just 2 years. Spencer himself made $175,000 an episode. Together, they made around $2 million a year in paid appearances. They made their money fast, but it went just as quickly. By the time the show was over, they were already almost broke. They almost filed for bankruptcy back in 2010. According to Spidey on why they blew their money, they claimed they were just immature. When they would go out to eat, they'd order $4,000 bottles of wine. Heidi was going to the mall and dropping $20,000 to $30,000 a day. Spencer claimed that he spent $1 million just on clothes alone. In reality, what happened was that they just assumed that the cash flow was just going to keep flowing in. Obviously, it didn't. They eventually moved back to live rent-free in a property owned by Spencer's parents for a while, but that move really killed their reputation. In the following years, they desperately tried to stay in the spotlight, such as trying to jumpstart Heidi's music career to even staging a fake breakup. Today, they're still together, and Spencer is spending his days making and selling healing crystals on his website, PrattDaddy.com. Just letting you guys know, he is having a 20% off sale. And don't forget to hit subscribe for our latest videos. Number 5, Janice Dickinson. What reality show has Janice Dickinson not been in? She's appeared on the shows Couples Therapy, Celebrity Big Brother, America's Next Top Model, and the Janice Dickinson Modeling Agency, just to name a few, because there's a lot. She's been described by many people, including herself, as the world's first supermodel. She's made a lot of money from her fame as one of the world's first supermodels, and it's tough to know just exactly how much money she's made over her long career. But we're going to guess it's at least a few $1 million. But even though she made a lot of money, she's no stranger to spending it. Needless to say, she's had a taste for the high life. She was at one point over $1.5 million in debt. In 2012, Dickinson faced an eviction lawsuit after not paying her rent of roughly $6,000 a month for 3 months at her West Hollywood home. With all that going on, she decided to file for bankruptcy. According to court documents in her bankruptcy, the types of debt she had ranged from plastic surgery to owing back taxes for years to the states of California and New York. What's worse, back taxes or child support? We'll have to ask. Number 4, Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman made almost $27 million playing in the NBA, and he's also made a lot more from checks for appearances, book deals, and reality shows. In his retirement from the NBA, Rodman continued to bring in money with appearances such as DJing in St. Tropez and signing autographs at conventions. Rodman's business associates estimated that he was making over $1 million a year in the late 2000s between appearances and reality TV stints. But strangely, in 2009, Rodman faced a 20-day jail sentence for failing to pay spouse and child support to his ex-wife. He owed her over $800,000 in child support and another $51,000 in alimony. Dennis Rodman actually isn't as reckless in spending as you think. These missed payments should have been Rodman's first clue that something was wrong with his financial advisor, Peggy Ann Fulford. Despite Rodman's continued cash flow, financial red flags started piling up. In 2012, he was in court for missing child support payments again. In court, Rodman's spending habits came up and he was questioned over a large charge at Victoria's Secret. That's when he knew something was wrong, because Rodman claimed that he'd never even been to Victoria's Secret. Long story short, Rodman losing millions of dollars and almost going broke was because of his financial advisor. Sometime around 2012, Rodman had to find out the hard truth that Peggy had been embezzling millions of dollars for years. Number 3. Abby Lee Miller. Abby Lee Miller is the star of the hit show Dance Moms. She really hit it big when she signed a 6-year contract with Lifetime to launch the show. Aside from Dance Moms, she's made money off of 3 spin-offs: Dance Moms Miami, Abby's Ultimate Dance Competition, and Abby's Studio Rescue. However, even with being famous on TV and making plenty of money, she still had money troubles. As recently as February of 2020, she was still behind on taxes of a little over $182,000 for 2012, 2013, and 2014. What's almost even more unbelievable is that she went to jail for bankruptcy fraud. The government found that she had hidden a little over $750,000 in secret accounts during her bankruptcy proceeding. This was back in 2010 when she filed because she owed around $400,000 in back taxes to the IRS. She ended up spending a little under a year in prison for that little escapade hiding money. However, after all that, how does she still owe back taxes for that many years in 2020? Well, it's still not as ridiculous as the case of number 2, Todd Chrisley. Is Todd Chrisley actually rich? Maybe, maybe not. This supposed real estate tycoon from Georgia filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy back in August 2012. And court documents showed outrageous spending and some even more ridiculous debt. Chrisley listed more than $4.2 million in assets, but his debts totaled almost $50 million. This almost doesn't make any sense. In his own promo for his family's TV show, he claims that his family sometimes spend $300,000 or more a year just on clothes. Well, with that statement and what they listed as assets, investigators grew suspicious of the Chrisley bankruptcy filing. So they began to investigate whether or not his family was hiding their money. But some way, somehow, the Chrisleys were able to get the bankruptcy discharge in 2015 with a settlement. All Todd Chrisley had to do was just pay some creditor $150,000. The whole $46 million apparently involved some other business partners who couldn't pay their share of the business debts, but he got stuck with the whole bill. Anyways, you'd think for someone to get out of that mess, they'd quickly pay it off. I mean, it's only $150,000, right? That should be chump change to Todd Chrisley. But nope. 2 years later, he still owed $70,000. On top of it all, in April of 2019, a federal grand jury in Atlanta indicted Todd and his wife Julie Chrisley on charges of conspiracy, bank fraud, wire fraud, and tax evasion. But no one had it worse than number 1, The Situation. And finally, we get to Mike, the Situation Sorrentino, Mr. Jersey Shore himself. When Jersey Shore took off, the show really took off. The Situation and the rest of the cast members started making money in amounts they had never seen before. The Situation began fattening up his bank account by making appearances at clubs and bars and endorsing stuff ranging from vodka to vitamin supplements. Vodka and vitamins? Of course, those go together just like gym, tan, and laundry. Sorrentino managed to make the most of his fame in the early stages. He made almost $9 million during the first 3 years of the show. Well, Well, when the whole world is watching what you do, don't forget that also includes the IRS. He and his brother Mark basically were committing tax fraud. The situation was either so dumb or ballsy, he didn't even bother submitting a personal tax return in 2011. Over the course of his trials, he had to start pulling back his spending because the court fees got expensive. At one point, he even sold the rims off of his Ferrari on eBay for 10 grand. Supposedly, his net worth dropped to below $500,000 between his spending habits and court costs. The situation eventually he pleaded guilty and did over 8 months in prison in 2019. Here's what's next.